Sasha are spirits known by someone still alive. So Sasha is a spirit. And what did she say back here?
Kind of the first time I felt something else come into me, and I knew that was gonna be my coming out night.
Welcome to your favorite celebrity, Control to Control You, Chronicles. Welcome back to the Pastor's Chronicles. This is part 4 of our ongoing Chronicles, Celebrities Control to Control You. And we're going to turn our attention to Kim Noble. This woman is a rare occurrence, a trauma-based mind control survivor with over 13 alter persons who don't know each other, but who all paints. She also suffers from DID and MPD, which is dissociative identity disorder and multiple personality disorder. For most of her life, as a result of an extremely traumatic childhood, each one of her alter paints with a personal and distinctive style, but they all have one thing in common. They reveal the dark world of mind control programming. From its horrific techniques to its symbolism, we'll look at the works of this unique artist who reveals a world that is totally hidden from the masses. And reason why we're going to look at Kim Noble is just to give you an idea what these celebrities are going through themselves. Remember, these celebrities can be used by the devil to control you. There are remote controls to control your mind, to make you into a vessel that they can use and depopulate. There's a lot of mind control symbolisms in pop culture, photoshops, music, videos, movies, often glamorize and trivialize mind control and its symbolisms by associating it with famous stars and trendy happenings. The fact, however, remains that these references celebrate of the most abominable practices known to man, trauma-based mind control, also called monarch programming, originating from the secret CIA project called MK Ultra. Monarch programming subjects its victims to some of the most terrible tortures conceivable. The works of Kim Noble vividly document the life of a mind-controlled slave through the eyes of 13 alter personals. While a few of these alter paint peaceful landscape and nature scenes, most of them depict horrific aspects of mind control such as physical torture, electroshock, violent sexual abuse, dehumanization, and dark occult rituals. The stories told by these paintings are almost too much to bear, yet they likely actually happened to Kim Noble as they precisely reflect accounts of other monarch survivors. Looking at the works of Kim Noble not only reveals gritty details of an abominable practice carried out by elite organizations, it reveals the symbolisms that is also thrown in our faces on a daily basis through corporate owned mass media. And so this is what these artists are doing. They pushing this agenda upon us and we are accepting it. And we become desensitized and we become zombies towards the agenda, and we all are headed towards that mark. And this is what the Bible meant when it said, broad is the way that leads to destruction, and many will go thereat. People are becoming desensitized, and they are being tricked. The Bible said that the dragon deceived the whole world, and they received the mark of the beast, and people are actually fighting to stay into this matrix slavery, this unrealistic world that's been painted by the elite to destroy moral codes and to cause many to hate and to kill and to murder and to rape people. All this is set up for the new world order to bring in one world government, one world currency, one world religion.
The book of Revelation is filled with a lot of imagery, much of which can be confusing to those who haven't studied it thoroughly. This imagery is a necessary tool used by someone nearly 2,000 years ago trying to describe the complexity of events in our time. Fortunately, the book of Revelation explains a lot of its imagery. Revelation chapter 17 describes a system of world government where a woman rides a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Apparently, the world will be divided up at some future point into 10 kingdoms. The truly astonishing part is that this division is happening now. In September 1973, the Club of Rome issued a report entitled Regionalized and Adaptive Model of the Global World System. It proposed dividing the world into 10 kingdoms. Yes, it actually used the phrase 10 kingdoms. While the boundaries of these 10 kingdoms are subject to change, it is their proposal that is the point. Since that proposal in 1973, the world is being divided into 10 kingdoms. It started with the European Union. It is continuing with the African Union. It is now here with the North American Union, or NAU. Our elected political leaders in North America deny the existence of the NAU, calling it a conspiracy theory.
In this one world entity, population will be limited by restrictions on the number of children per family, diseases, wars, famines, until 1 billion people who are useful to the ruling class in areas which will be strictly and clearly defined remain as the total world population. There will be no middle class, only rulers and the servants.
And here I would like briefly to compare the parable of Brave New World with another parable which was put forth more recently in George Orwell's book 1984. I'm inclined to think that the scientific dictatorships of the future, and I think there are going to be scientific dictatorships in many parts of the world, will be probably a good deal nearer to the Brave New World pattern than to the 1984 pattern. They will be a good deal nearer, not because of any humanitarian qualms in the scientific dictators, but simply because the Brave New World pattern is probably a good deal more efficient than the other. But if you can get people to consent to the state of affairs in which they are living, the state of servitude, the state of being, well, it seems to me that the nature of the ultimate revolution with which we are now faced is precisely this, that we are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy.
Most people believe to be public opinion is in reality carefully crafted and scripted propaganda designed to elicit a desired behavioral response from the public. Public opinion polls are really taken with the intent of gauging the public's acceptance of the Illuminati's planned programs. The New World Order global conspirators manifest their agenda through skillful manipulation of human emotion, especially fear, which is often drummed up by the mainstream media through careful programming and deceitful scripted lies. voices, which are by talking heads to sway public opinion, in effect causing the populace to acquiesce to the agenda of the New World Order. We saw this during the man-made global warming scam that was championed by globalist minion Al Gore. But his whole scam blew up in his face when hackers uncovered numerous emails revealing what many of us already knew. The climate change agenda is based not only on easily debunked junk science, but outright lies and deception.
Man-made global warming pollution causes global warming. That's not a cutesy issue. It's not an open issue.
It's your opinion. Obviously, you've stated it many times. Would you talk to the cost?
Opinion of the global scientific community.
Internet hackers claim that confidential emails from scientists show that climate change data has been fiddled. They allege scientists have been cooking the books to support the view that the global warming is caused by human activity rather than a naturally occurring phenomenon.
And speaking of the environment, a French physicist and noted global warming skeptic is calling Al Gore a crook. Claude Allegre is a former education minister and the author of a new book called My Truth About the Planet. Bloomberg.com reports Allegre accuses Gore of presiding over an eco-business that pumps out cash. He says Gore's followers are like religious zealots and are actually endangering the planet.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
There is a worldwide conspiracy being orchestrated by an extremely powerful and influential group of individuals, which include many of the world's wealthiest people, top political leaders and corporate elite, as well as members of the so-called black nobility of Europe, which is dominated by the British Crown. The goal of this sinister group is to create a one-world fascist government, a new world order, a world stripped of nationalistic and regional boundaries that is obedient to their agenda. Their intention is to effect complete and total control over every human being on the planet and to dramatically reduce the world's population to 500 million. While the name New World Order is a term frequently used today when referring to this group, the name Illuminati is the oldest term commonly used to refer to the 13 bloodline families which consist of the commonly known Rockefeller and Rothschild families that have spent their existence like parasites feeding off the lifeblood and suffering of the world's populations. Most members of the Illuminati are also members in the highest ranks of numerous secretive and occult societies, which in many cases extend far back into the ancient world. Many other organizations and foundations within the pyramid structure have been set up to infiltrate, recruit, and use some of the world's most influential people to advance the agenda of this evil scourge on humanity. Some of these secretive organizations are the CFR, the Bilderberg Group, and the Trilateral Commission, and a multitude of alphabet foundations set up by the aforementioned families. The corporate portion of the New World Order pyramid seems to be dominated by international bankers and big pharmaceutical cartels, as well as other major multinational corporations. The royal family of England, namely Queen Elizabeth II and the House of Windsor, who are in fact descendants of the German arm of the European royalty, the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha family, changed their name to Windsor in 1914, and are high-level players along with the British oligarchy, which controls the upper strata of the Illuminati. The decision-making Illuminati nerve centers of this effort are in London, especially the City of London, Basel, Switzerland, and Brussels NATO headquarters. The United Nations, along with all the agencies working under the UN umbrella, such as the World Health Organization, are full-time players in this scheme. NATO is also a military tool of the New World Order. In 1992, Dr. John Coleman published Conspirators' Hierarchy, the story of the Committee of 300. Dr. Coleman accurately summarizes the intent and purpose of the Committee of 300 as follows: a one-world government and one-unit monetary system under permanent, non-elected hereditary oligarchies who self-select from among their numbers in the form of a feudal system as it was in the Middle Ages.
From an early age, we are taught that our government is one of the people, by the people, and for the people. We are led to believe that politicians only have our best interest at heart, and that they are doing what they believe is best for our country. These politicians make new promises of hope and change every election cycle, yet every administration leads us into more war, poverty, and despair. So why is it that everything stays the same no matter who holds office? Could it be that our politicians are nothing more than puppets? And if so, who holds their strings? In order to answer these questions, we need to travel back to 1910, when a group of 6 international bankers and Senator Nelson Aldrich met on Jekyll Island, a private resort off the coast of Georgia, to conspire to create the Federal Reserve System. These 7 men represented the most powerful and wealthy families: the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and Morgans. These same 7 men owned over 1/6 of the world's wealth. Agents of these families, such as Paul Warburg and Benjamin Strong, who attended the 9-day meeting at Jekyll Island, took control over the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve gave them control over interest rates, thus giving them control over the stock market. The Fed also gave the government the ability to spend money without limit by having the Federal Reserve created out of thin air. This led to booms and busts over a century of inflation and an ever-growing national debt. The same money trust that created the Federal Reserve made sure that Woodrow Wilson would win the 1912 presidential election. The money trust ensured their control over Wilson through Edward Mandell House, who advised Wilson and even lived in the White House during Wilson's administration. Wilson, who was controlled by the money trust, was hell-bent on establishing the League of Nations, an intergovernmental organization supposedly formed to maintain world peace. The truth is that its real intent was to be the first step towards establishing world government. After the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, the League of Nations was established. However, the United States never joined since the Senate refused to ratify it, but this did not stop the money trust. 2 years later, the Council on Foreign Relations was born. Its purpose was to lead America into the League and ultimately into world government. The CFR is not alone in its scheme to establish a world government. There is the English counterpart, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and the French Institute of International Relations, among other CFR-like groups, secretly guiding the policy decisions of their own countries. After World War II, the League of Nations replacement, the United Nations, was conceived. We are told that the United Nations was created by countries trying to avoid war after the devastating aftermath of World War II, but this couldn't be further from the truth. The idea of the UN was created by a cabal of men in the State Department that referred to themselves as the Informal Agenda Group. These men made sure to gain the approval of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. 45 of the American delegates at the founding UN meeting were CFR members. 2 other institutions were created in the aftermath of World War II to help further the one world government agenda: the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, which ensured that the banks get their interest when a loan to a foreign country was unable to be paid back.